Dismember, welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great, thank you.
Excellent. Introduce yourself, tell me what you do in the band.
I'm Fred Estby, the drummer.
I'm David Blomqvist, the guitarist.
Okay, and today we're going to talk about the whole history of the band. So when did Dismember form?
We started in 1988, so quite a long time ago. Yeah, the spring of '88, I think.
April or something.
Yeah, we got the first demo going around December of the same year.
Speaking of demos, there is a release of old demos right there. So tell me about your demo days. What was that like? Nowadays, bands don't even know what a demo is, by the way, right?
Yeah. The first demo was recorded in Studio Z, you say that in English?
Z or
Yeah.
Z.
In like what, 2 days?
Yep,
Something like that.
Yeah.
3 songs. It was Fred on drums, me on guitars, and Robert was the vocalist, who later became our guitarist. It was a Deathification, Substantial Dead, and Defective Decay.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And how did it eventually transform into a record deal? Another thing people have no clue about these days.
Well, you know, we did a couple of demos,
Uh-huh.
3 demos in total, and for the third demo that we recorded in 1990, this guy who's actually in a band called Avulse now, Dave Rotten was his nickname back then. He actually sent our demo to Nuclear Blast Records, who instantly loved it, and he told them, like, you should sign these guys because you better get on it now. We actually got rejected by Earache and Peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to release anything by us, and I think they regret it.
I'm sure they do, because the album that came out next, you want to show it, that
Absolutely.
became an instant classic. So
this
introduce
one,
it.
yeah, so this is Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. We recorded it in the spring of 1991, and it came out the same summer of that year. Yeah, 12 days of recording, I think it was, including mixing. So, but it was the first time that we actually recorded an album, or no. It's the second time we recorded something with Dismember at the Sunlight Studio, and it turned out really good. We had a good vibe. You know, we felt like we had a really good momentum, and you know, the guys at Nuclear Blast, we worked really well with them, and you know, it was a good debut.
I also hear Nicky Anderson of Entomb was kind of involved in this record. Can you describe his involvement?
Yeah, you know, he's always been involved since we started the band. Like at one point he was playing bass for us when we rehearsed, just to have some bass, you know, because we didn't have a bass player at the time and so on. So he's always been close by. He made the logo. It's he who made that, and the original logo.
Mm-hmm.
The first demo cover, I guess. Wasn't that one?
Yep, yeah, he drew the first.
Drew it.
The first and the third, actually, demo covers he drew.
It seems that you guys had a very close relationship among many bands. Can you describe that entire circle of friends that was happening at that time?
Yeah, I mean, Stockholm, it's not a huge city,
Mm-hmm.
and back then it was, the good thing is that it's kind of, even with the suburbs, it's not huge, but you also have good public transportations. You have a lot of subway lines, buses, trains, and so on. So it was easy for everybody to get around that city. So you could actually go see people who live in north of town. We come from south of Stockholm, but people were spread out. Like the real die-hard death metal fans were really spread out outside of Stockholm. But we hung out that way. Every weekend we hung out with other people, listening to each other's demos, going to each other's shows and all that. So it was a very tight-knit community with all these bands like Unleashed, Crave, Entombed, Nihilist, that they were called before that, Afflicted Convulsion. I mean, you can go on and on. Therion, you know, Carbonized, so many bands.
Cool. Well, let's continue with Pieces.
Yes, this is Pieces. It's like the best guitar sound ever, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It's so the production is so brutal on this one. But it's only like is it 3 songs and then Soon to Be Dead and I don't know which one is it. Never mind.
I think it's, yeah, those 3.
We tried fun thing about this. We tried to play the second song that we should have, but it's because of the guitar sound, it's almost impossible to hear some of the riffs. And I think the cover is just amazing, really.
Well, you get this, but you don't get that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Huh?
Yes.
Yep. And then moving on, we got Indecent and Obscene. So this is our second full-length album, and we recorded that in '92, released it in 1993, and that's also where we started touring in the US for the first time. We got into the market here a little bit. So, you know, mainly the first album was doing really well in Europe, but not that well over here. So we tried to, you know, expand the market for the band with Nuclear Blast, and the Relapse records at that time were the Nuclear Blast office in the US. So this was the first release for them. For us.
You quickly became very visible in the United States as far as like Swedish bands. What response did you get back?
It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember we were on this tour for 10 weeks, right?
Yeah, it was a 10-week tour.
So we went everywhere from, you know, from Mexico, US, all of US, all the way up to Canada. And yeah, we were grinding that summer over here. So that's the way to do it,
Yep.
especially back then.
Next.
Here we get Massive Killing Capacity. This one is a bit different from the previous one and the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A bit more mature.
Yeah, exactly. We were actually trying some new stuff for like at least 2 songs. We were tuning up one half step. Yeah, to hear the riffs better, how we play them. But when you look back at it, it wasn't maybe the best choice to do that.
Well, it's a learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, absolutely. And we always play like at least 3 or 4 songs on this album every show. So
it's also the album that actually entered German charts, actually.
Okay.
Which is interesting. A death metal band in the German charts was kind of unheard of before that. So maybe it's a little bit more accessible for people who were not that into extreme music too. So.
Perhaps it was the record that pulled people into extreme music. You know, it could have been. It works both ways, doesn't it?
You know what? Like, I don't think we don't regret doing that at all, because it also made us realize that this was not the way to go for us sound-wise. This was the thing we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So this album is a complete, it's actually how to say it. This is an effect of that album, more or less, because we felt like death metal was kind of like going down too, and black metal was rising, and people were more into black metal.
Mm-hmm.
We were very stubborn and felt like, no, we're not going to go the death and roll way. We're going to stick to what we know. We're going to do what Motorhead did. We're not going to change our sound. We're going to play death metal, and we're going to do it the way we've always done it. And
that was a great record.
My favorite.
One of your best, actually.
yeah, I
would
agree.
A lot of good songs, and the production is very raw and in your face. So.
And I think this album actually is a reaction to the previous album, Indecent and Obscene, because it has a lot of riffs and time changes. This one is more straightforward, more I don't know, more typical hard rock kind of structure. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, solo, like that.
Then came the Hate Campaign.
Yes, then we
Another great record.
First lineup change. Both Robert and our bass player Richard quit after death metal, after the touring. We got Magnus Sahlgren from Naked Chairs, and Charlie D'Angelo played bass on this one.
Okay.
Yes, but I mean overall I think this is a good album. Anyway, that we recorded in Das Båt Studios.
Yeah, so we changed it up, changed studio, and everything was kind of different.
Yes.
Cool.
And after that, we had a little bit of a hiatus, and Richard came back, and we were deciding to start touring again, more or less, and getting more heavily involved in making finishing a new album and all that. So Where Iron Crosses Grow is the next one. This is also, in my opinion, one of the better albums we've done. New studio again, but me, Matti, Richard, and David did this. So you know, a lot of changes and a lot of stuff happened between the hate campaign and this one, but here we're kind of back on track.
Definitely.
One of my personal favorites as well. The funny thing about Where Iron Crosses Grow album is that most of the time we were like a duo rehearsing.
Yeah.
It was just me and Fred. Sometimes Richard would be there, but he had some. He was about to move to the States, I think, so he couldn't be present on all the rehearsals. But he wrote some very good riffs.
So it's a very personal album for both of you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely is.
for that reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
I
a lot
think
of
this one and Death Metal and Like An From Stream are the best ones,
Very cool.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
So then we have The God That Never Was. Then Richard quit again, and Magnus Sahlgren left the band. Actually before
Yeah.
Ryan Crosses Grow. But we got a new guy called Martin Persson, second guitarist, and he was kind of involved writing songs and stuff for the album. Recorded in Sami Studios in Stockholm, produced by Fred.
Yeah.
But I like this album. I think it's really good.
After this record, Fred, I think you left the band, right?
Yeah.
So what led to that departure?
Well, you know, we toured pretty hard on that album, and we also had a lot of issues on the road. Back then, like in 2006, there were a lot of shady promoters. You know,
True.
a lot of rip-offs happened.
Oh, yes.
We lost money. You know, it was a lot of weird stuff happening, and you know, you got stranded somewhere, and you know, without a tour bus, stuff like that happened. And eventually, and my kids were really small. We were still very young, and we were touring a lot. We were like touring for 2 weeks, home for 2 weeks, touring for 2 weeks, and we went all over the globe. Like we went to Russia for the first time. We were in Australia. We toured everywhere. But eventually, it took a toll on me and my family. So I decided that I couldn't do it.
I could totally relate because I mean I have a career, I have a family, and I still try to do music, and
Yeah.
sometimes trying to balance all of it is not possible.
It's tough.
It's tough. So I get it. And as awesome as the scene is, it can be frustrating too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's like because we always were a touring band, but as we got older, we needed to put food on the table
Correct.
for ourselves and pay our bills. And
I mean, when you no longer live in your mother's basement,
Yeah, exactly,
you know,
exactly.
all of a sudden real life kicks in, and you're the mother, and
Yeah.
you're the father,
Yeah.
and you have to provide and pay your own bills. And
yeah, and like, and if you're like, if you hold down a career job or even just a 9 to 5, like 5 days a week job, you can't just go on the road suddenly. You know, that your employer's gonna be like, you can't just leave. You have to ask for vacation, and you know, you have to plan this out, and it's hard sometimes.
Absolutely.
So like that conflict is kind of, it's an ongoing thing for musicians, I feel like.
Trust me, I retired doing this many times over.
Yeah.
But something keeps bringing me back because
Yes,
I love the music, I love the feel of it. But it can be tough.
It's the same for us. I mean, that's why we play again since 2019, because
But
we still wanted to do it, but now we're going to do it on different terms. We're not going to quit our jobs. We're going to have that, you know, and then we can do as many shows as possible.
I mean, back then, early 90s, we were teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
When
sure
we toured
with the
just-
sandwich.
Yeah.
Everyone lived at home. I mean, I think I was like 19 on that.
Yeah, I mean,
10
last time I met you, I know I lived at home.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Now I own a home.
Exactly.
I mean, huge difference.
Yeah.
Anyways, getting back to our little story. So the band continued without you, and they did one more record titled Dismember. Tell me about that one.
Exactly. We got a new bass player in Tobias Kristiansson, who played bass, and this is what we found. And the drummer was Thomas Dawn. I think he played with Repugnant before, another Swedish death metal band. And I was mad at Fred for a year because I quit the band. Dio-tröja.
It's great.
No, I wasn't angry. I was disappointed that he left. Because you know, yeah, I was then, but when after a while when we split the band after this, I started thinking a bit.
That's right.
Not being so selfish.
This was your last album, so what led to the final split?
It was too many tours.
Okay.
At this time, it was around this time. We quit our day jobs. We didn't have any steady income at all.
Mm-hmm.
We're living on tour, and you know we don't get paid from record labels. Really, nothing for selling albums. So everything went like from the shows. So I guess all of us get pretty tired of that lifestyle, really, touring and coming home for a few weeks, now tour again. So no.
It could wear you out.
Actually, I was the one who was like, no, let's. I don't know if I want to play anymore. It wasn't the same without Fred being the drummer and anymore anyway. So I felt like, no, let's do this.
Did you do anything musical when the band was on the hiatus, like gone?
We had a band called The Dagger, like a hard rock heavy metal band.
More classic, like old school 70s, early 80s, you know, rainbow kind of feel.
Awesome stuff.
And yeah.
So what eventually led to Dismember coming back?
You know, like I moved to the United States in 2016, and I toured. I'm a sound engineer, so I did a lot of front of house jobs for other bands, touring with other bands. And people sometimes came up to me and would be like, "Are you Fred from Dismember?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, why? You guys should tour again. You guys should play again. And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." People say that and they don't really mean it. But after a couple of years, like around 2017, I was like, "Oh, maybe there is a real interest, like that is big enough for us to maybe think about playing again." And we were not all on the same page then, but we let it go. So we kind of forgot about it. But then around 2018, we started getting real offers to do like festivals and so on. And people were actually, you know, saying that like whatever you want, whatever you need, within reason, you know, we want you to play. So we finally got on the same page, all of us, and we're like, yeah, let's do it again. Let's see how this goes.
And how does it feel to be back? What are you doing different now that you didn't do before?
We do not do any long tours. We don't do more than 2 shows in one weekend, because like if we start touring again, you're gonna start seeing the backsides of being away from your family and your home and your work, and you can't take off from work. Like we all have careers that we don't want to give up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two is that we promise each other that any show or any decision that we do for the band is going to be, everybody has to be in, all 5 of us. If that's not happening, then it's not going to happen. And number two was that we said that if it's not fun, we shouldn't do it. We need to know that we're having as much fun as we did when we started out, so that we're laughing. There's more positivity than negativity around the shows we're doing. So that was really important to us, and that's why we keep it like this. People are, oh, you should come tour, and oh, if you could be on the road instead, we could pay a little less for you guys to come play, and you know, then you can play more shows and all that. Yeah, but that is the problem. Then you start to compromising on your own terms. So we're never going to do that. We're never going to tour. If we play more than 2 shows in 1 week, that's going to be very rare, and it has to be very special. Otherwise, we keep it like this, and that makes it fun for us, for the audience, and we also know that there's going to be good quality for all the shows that we're playing.
That sounds like a plan. Now, is there any chance of any new recordings at all?
Yeah, I mean, we have material already. We're talking about making an album. It's just a matter of when and where and how, because I live in the US, Richard lives in Belgium, the other 3 guys lives in Sweden still, so it's kind of like we just have to plan it out well, and also need to know that like we're still getting offers to play at around 10 shows per year, which is what we can do. We can't really do much more than that per year. So as long as those offers keep coming in, then it's kind of hard to like say no to that just to record an album, because we also want to play live. So we have to. I guess we're gonna have to try to plan something out, but we're talking about how to do it. So we'll see.
As long as it's, I mean, everyone wants to make a new album, of course.
There's gonna be one.
Yeah,
there is.
It's not like we're doing a greatest hits show and get the cash. I mean, I'm enjoying this more than I did before. I'm having so much fun. As Fred said, now it's on other terms, so it's just a lot of positive energy.
That's great to hear. Finally, what would you say, looking through all these records, what was your absolute highlight throughout the entire career?
It's a tough one, but I mean, especially after the first album and the second album, we did such fun tours that we still talk about. We still remember like almost every day out of every 10-week tour we did. We toured with Obituary, Napalm Death, Wounded Angel, Dayside, Suffocation, Vader. Like all those people were like, they're still there. Exactly like us. They're still there doing their thing. Exactly like us, which is really cool that we made those friendships and those connections back then, and we still have them to these days.
Thank you.
Thank you.